morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ed Salem, and I'm your host for the course, I think.
Leadership is a function of trust and respect, both of which have to be earned.
A good guy to work with and for. He has good vision, and yet he cares for his people so that he can take a personal interest in you and your situation, which again was pretty instrumental to me. So I learned a lot from him, and I hope to model my leadership style in some ways based on what I saw from him.
You do this through your ability to communicate.
He's able to take an idea, paint a picture of it in his mind, and then communicate that vision to his team.
Most importantly, to inspire your teammates to see beyond today.
You know, his legacy can be measured not just in what he accomplished while he was here. And, you know, you can measure his legacy in terms of what he left behind.
To plan for the future, good or bad, and to strive to make your vision of tomorrow reality.
It's taking a positive attitude every day, following through and being able to see the broad picture. And nobody probably spent the time to develop people on a personal level and understand them on a personal level than the way Ed did.
He was very much a father figure to a lot of us young CGOs. You know, he always tried to encourage you to, you know, rise to your own potential. Just giving you the confidence to make a contribution, collaborating as a team. You know, they all typically went on to be great leaders in their own right, those that adopted that same practice. You know, his legacy can be measured not just in what he accomplished while he was here.
The man today is a product of all his yesterdays. In the midst of famine, depression, and war, Nimr Salem left behind his beautiful village of Sagbin, Lebanon, in hopes of finding peace, work, and a better tomorrow. He entered through Ellis Island in 1914. It was in Des Moines on July 4th, 1942, that Linda first met Nimr. A month later, they were married, and a year after that, they welcomed Edward Michael into this world. Within 5 years, Edward had 3 siblings, Mary, Kareem, and David. He grew up in the shadows of the Iowa State Capitol building, in a neighborhood that had a distinct influence on Edward's life. He was exposed to the many ethnic and religious groups of the world, learning to appreciate their music and culture, and creating a basic understanding of the people, their hurts, pain, and sufferings, their joys and smiles. He grew up among the elders of his Lebanese community, drinking in the stories of their journey to the New World and their love of Lebanon. It was in this neighborhood that the seeds of what was to become the man took root. Ed attended Visitation Catholic grade school, serving Mass, singing in the choir, became a member of the Boy Scouts and Holy Name Society. He attended Dowling Catholic High School, Simpson College, and then Drake University, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in political science and history. He later attended Hunter College in New York, working towards a master's in international relations. Drake University nominated him to the 1965 Who's Who among students in American colleges and universities for participation and contributions to so many campus organizations. He had participated in the Midwest Model United Nations on a team developing a draft nuclear non-proliferation treaty that served as the model for the one passed by the United Nations and became legal counsel and then Secretary General. He was also named by then Ambassador to the United Nations, Adlai Stevenson, as a U.S. representative to the International Student Model United Nations Conference in Italy. Ed would become a master at communication, honing skills acquired through oratorical contests, debating matches, in choir, and in many plays, including Meet Me in St. Louis, Kismet, and Good Woman of Szechuan. Ed began his professional life with the Small Business Administration, operating Salem's public relations firm, and in 1972 began with the Army Recruiting Command. Ed earned accolades for his leadership and development of strategic marketing plans, most notably for creating innovative cooperative programs with colleges and universities, and his participation in the rollout of one of the great American advertising campaigns, Be All You Can Be.
Hey, First Sergeant. Good morning. You can do it in the Army.
In the mid-70s, Ed and his family opened a Lebanese bakery in Des Moines, where they made and sold baklava and other Lebanese products. It was at this time that he met Samia. The storybook romance began with their first date and a wedding 90 days later. They were blessed with their 2 children, Christopher and Nicole. Leaving the Army in 1985, Ed picked up his family and moved to Southern California to become speechwriter to the general officers of what was then the U.S. Air Force Space Division. Over the years, Ed Salem became the go-to person for tasks and projects that no one else could or would do, ultimately having a lasting impact on the center and its people. He led the effort to develop and conduct the first ever organizational assessment, which led to the first Space Division Strategic Business Plan, Base Realignment and Closure Commission activity through 2005.
Ed was also a leader for many years at Space and Missile Systems Center to do strategic planning and lead strategic planning for SMC. To help SMC develop and understand a vision and to have one, and then to help look at the goals and the tactics it was going to take to achieve the vision for the Space and Missile Systems Center. He helped defend the Air Force, the DoD, and to the Air Force and Congress numerous space projects and helped lead us to prioritize where we were going to spend dollars in space, your taxpayer dollars and mine. These satellite systems that Ed has helped build and to develop and to test and to design launch most of our government's military satellites into space.
Ed led the effort to create a new base at no cost to the Air Force. Los Angeles Air Force Base is a monument to Ed's creative approach, tenacity, and political savvy.
Ed helped me keep Los Angeles Air Force Base in Los Angeles and not allow it to be closed, and at the end of the day developed a brand new Air Force Base for all of the men and women that serve here in Los Angeles. And we could not have done that without the expertise, leadership, and management skills of Ed Salem.
After retiring, Ed returned to head up the change management effort for the Air Force Base.
Ed was the chancellor of our SMC University. His team, with only a couple $1 million a year, sponsored over 100 advanced academic degree programs. There are scores of young men and women, military and civilians at SMC, who have looked to Ed to be a mentor and to help them get through and to plan out their careers. He is a friend to many at SMC. I'd like to applaud Ed because he is a visionary leader of integrity who is willing to work compromises, but he knows when to hold the line and tell it the way he sees it. His actions are always consistent with his word. These traits, strangely enough, are not always appreciated by everyone and requires courage to hold our convictions. But for the criticisms that Ed over the years has had, because he's dealing in a very political arena, when something important needs to be said, Ed says it. When we at SMC require sensitivity and expertise in working with politicians, unions, the workforce, or very senior DoD or congressional figures, Ed has always been the person we go to. The most commendable thing that I point out about Ed is that he demonstrates to all of us a balanced life, where he puts God in the right perspective, his family, and work. I can say that he's one of the few highly successful people that I've met that have been able to balance that and do it in a good way. He's been an inspiration to me in that sense.
It wasn't through formal leadership designation that Ed was able to make this happen. He was not the commander of the Space and Missile Systems Center. He wasn't the deputy commander. He wasn't the director. He was just Ed. He was just the guy he is, the leader he is, the ability to go ahead and think differently, bring a plan together, create ideas where none existed, and then make them happen. And so Ed not only built the SMC we live in today, but he helped build the future SMC, the future Space and Missile Systems Center, that this nation will benefit far into the future.
Ed has had a lasting impact on his country and community. He earned 3 civilian medals, multiple awards including the Meritorious Achievement Medal, the Exemplary Civilian Medal, and the Distinguished Service Medal. Ed is an honorary admiral in the state of Nebraska and a Tennessee squire. An American to the core and proud of his Lebanese cultural heritage, Ed was recognized in 2000 with the Ellis Island Medal of Honor. Ed got involved in organizations where he could be relevant and help achieve a positive outcome.
You can't think of the Lebanese community in Des Moines without thinking of the Salem family, and Ed Salem in particular. And we founded the Young Phoenician Club of Des Moines, which is still in existence today, going very strong. Years later, Eddie became president of the Midwest Federation. And I remember one of his duties during that time was to present Danny Thomas from St. Jude Children's Hospital with a prestigious award from the Midwest Federation. And that award hangs today in the Danny Thomas Museum in Memphis, Tennessee.
Ed was president of the Midwest Maharajan, a multi-state Lebanese organization. Ed was involved in many efforts to bring humanitarian aid and relief to the people of Lebanon. He became an active, effective, and vocal leader on behalf of the cause of a free and sovereign Lebanon.
Eddie is a remarkable individual. Not only is a man of vision, but a man of compassion and a man of action. He always builds bridges between the world of ideas and the world of action. He spent most of his life working for his fellow Maronites and his fellow Lebanese, whether it was in Iowa when he was the president of the Midwest Federation, or when he moved to California as an organizer of the International Maronite Congress in 1994 and 2002, and as president of the International Maronite Foundation.
Today, Ed works with a passion for St. John Maron Church of Orange County. When he moved to California, he became immersed in working for the benefit of Our Lady of Lebanon in Los Angeles. As the community in Orange County grew, they bought a church, remodeled it, and then had to replace it because of fire damage. Through it all, Ed worked tirelessly to make this dream come true for his community. He served on the parish council as a member, as president, as stewardship committee member, and as a chair of the Capital Fund. Over the years, Ed has worked with the powerful and the great, continuously humbled by the trust and faith placed in him. He works harder to bring the causes of the Church and the sovereign existence of Lebanon to reality. His life's work has been driven by his faith in God and belief that doing God's work is the mission of every person.
Ultimately, his goal is the love of the Church, and his desire is what's good for the Church. And in any way it takes, whether it's through culture exhibits or through fundraising or through song and worship, or whatever it may be, and that's what he works at the hardest and the most for.
You've done all things well. Everyone knows how much you both contributed to the church, and without both of you, we wouldn't have a church either.
Ed has strived to be of help to anyone who needs it, being there in good and bad times and offering mentorship to those who are wandering or lost, always extending a hand in friendship and the spirit of brotherhood. These are what drive Ed. Whether leading or following, he is always there.
And he helped so many people in his life, and especially young people. He has a very special connections to our young people, and he inspired so many of them in his life.
My goal has been to instill, to inspire young men and women in the service of God, service of their country, and most of all, service to their families, and to do so with compassion and love for one another.